Tassa. Say sadhu 3 times, please. I'm going to begin the Dhamma talk by inviting the yogis and the non-humans for this Dhamma talk. Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gachantu Devata Saddhammang Munirajase Sunantu Sagga Mokkadang Dhammasavena Kalu Ayang Bhadanta Dhammasavena Kalu Ayang Bhadanta Dhammasavena Kalu Ayang Bhadanta Namo Tassa Bhagavatu Arahatu Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavatu Arahatu Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavatu Arahatu Samma Sambuddhassa. Good evening, everybody. Dear Venerable Somananda, Venerable Medankara, and Mr. Lal and his family, Mr. Lucky and his family, and Mrs. Shammi and her family, and all the other well-wishers, friends who have gathered here to listen to this Dhamma talk. So this Dhamma talk, as exactly as Venerable Somananda brought up, is held to transfer the good karmas to Mrs. Elsie Sujata Pereira, the beloved mother of 3 of you, and the grandmother of Dimitri? I'm sorry? The great grandmother of Dimitri, and I'm sorry, I'm not good into the figuring out about the relationships. So today is the second death anniversary of her death. So because of that reason, you all have gathered here and then took part in the Buddha Puja, and then now waiting to listen to a Dhamma talk. Well, I thought that I would better talk to you about the concept of death and what happens after the death according to the Buddha's teachings. I mean, at the beginning of this talk, we all know that because we born, we have to be dead as well. It is not because of the Buddhism, no any other religion, no there is someone who can who is supposed to take care of the whole universe, or any other almighty power. It is because of the Dhamma Niyama, as in the Pancha Niyama Dharmas. Right? I'm going into the Dhamma, the Pancha Niyamas later in this talk. As the monks, what we been doing, as you know better than me, from the start of your practice, the monks, the Dharma books, Tripitaka, and all the other canonical doctrinal books reflect, in to various, degrees, to various extents. Simply because you're going to die, you may need to take a look of your kusala side, skill side, and then you need to better involve in the kusalas, 10 kusalas, dasa kusalas. And it also reminds us you should not stay on the path of the unskilled practices. The opposite side of the dasa kusala, dasa akusala. Right? And what is unfortunately happening in some people's lives is that They may simply practice the Buddha's teachings or whatever the kind of resources that I told you, simply because they want to be born in a happy place, simply because they really worry about the next life, right? In the Afghanistan and in most of the countries where you could see some of the terrorists who've been really brainwashed by their ancestors or extreme groups, that whenever you feel like you can explode yourself, and you could do that, you can make up your mind to do such a thing, then you can head off for a better heaven, let's say a safe heaven for them. So this reflects, on the other hand, that the next life has been used by different people for different reasons. I don't say that the monks do that, because it is an aspect of the Buddhism, the Buddha's teachings, but it shouldn't be the only way to know the Dharma, right? It shouldn't be the only mode to learn Dharma. It could be a way to learn Dharma, right? Dharma has to be taken. Dharma has to be taken in all aspects, not in one aspect. Most of you know that you migrated to Canada for a better life than how you used to stay in the countries that you spent time, right? And then after coming here and after settling down within a certain period of time, and you may have tended to look at Dharma perspectives in a different way, more than the people who stay in Sri Lanka. Because you get to see that how the people from different nationalities work together, right? How can the kids from more than 20 or 30 ethnicities can study together, right? And after a certain time they don't feel like we are different, right? So then that understanding can be seen in most of the perspectives of the lives here. You know better than me. So in the same way, the Buddha's teachings have to be taken from its totality. It's like what is given by the Buddha in one of the sutras. I think that sutra is called Jacchanda Sutra in the Udana Pali of the Khuddaka Nikaya. A circle of blind people were given a choice to figure out the shape of the elephant, shape of an elephant. So the blind people could touch the different parts of the body of the elephant, and they came up with different decisions about the shape of the elephant, right? The one who touched one of the I think ears of the elephant may have come up with a decision that the shape of the elephant is as a Vinobim fan, right? The one who touched one of the legs of the elephant came up with a kind of an idea that the elephant's shape is as a motor, right? So at the end, the answers about the shape of the elephant that were brought up by the blind people were forwarded to the Buddha, and he said none of these answers are wrong, right? But whenever you put all these answers together, you get to see an elephant, right? Because they only knew a certain part of the body, but they didn't know that elephant is such a big animal. But it is as how many people as you know as you in the practice of Buddha's teachings, touch the Buddha's dharma in various sections of that. There is a sutra called Alagadupama in the Majjhima Nikaya, and Buddha says, if you touch upon the dharma in its wrong ends, or if you are in one of the extreme ends of the dharma, which means Buddha says at a certain point, dharma also has to be given up at a certain time. After learning dharma and having a good comprehension of dharma, then you may come up with a certain knowledge that I should not even crave for dharma that I learn. Right? So that is how Buddha has told us to practice dharma. So in the footstep of these teachings or resources that Buddha has said to us, I would like to touch upon the concept of death. I told you that as the followers of the Buddha's teachings, we've been taking up the Buddha's teachings from different areas. Let's say some are really into Amisa Puja, right? Some are really into Pratipatti Puja. Amisa means into more offering side. Some are into more practices like Sila and all these practices. But none of these sections, sides are right if you're going to practice separately. Right? Let's say that there is a person who does not offer dana, who is not generous, who is not into respect, who is not into devotion, and would think to go into deeper practices like, let's say, meditation, sila. Though you get involved in those practices, but if you lacking the faith, if you lacking the devotion, if you lacking the respect, you may not be able to touch upon the dharma. Because dharma is a mixture of devotion and practice. Right? So that is also a certain perspective that we need to keep in mind before touching upon this concept. Well, as I told you, that simply because we were born and we need to be dead at a certain time. And Buddha says in a certain quotation that when you die, you're going to meet up with three things. In Sinhala we call them as karmaya, karma nimitta and gati nimitta. In Sinhala we call them as karmaya, karma nimitta and gati nimitta. I would say them in English. Karmaya means the last karma. To Buddha, karma means not just the action, but the actions, thoughts, words done with intention. Right? That is how Buddha said about karma. Back at the Buddha's time, there was a mentor called Niganthanatha Buddha. He was extremely into non-violence. So he commanded the followers, you should not drink water taken from the rivers and lakes, because you're going to kill those small creatures, so you better boil the water and then you drink them. And he didn't know that when they boil water and they kill the bacteria and all the animals, because at the time it was not the science, right? Whenever a Jaina follower is to walk, he commanded them to take a broom with them, because now before they plan to walk, they have to clean up the floor or wherever they go with a broom, and they make sure that there are no any tiny creatures that you step on, right? So that was kind of very hard to follow at a certain extent, but there are people who follow even at this time. And Buddha said, as long as you don't have any bad intentions, but if you know that you have a bad intention, but you do not regard it, you get to kill them, then there's a problem. And then, as long as you don't have those bad immoral thoughts, then things are fine. and you go ahead with whatever you want to do. So that is how Buddha explained about the karma concept, right? I do not go into the deeper sides of karma concept at this point. So I better just mention how did Buddha mean about karma. So when someone is to die, the first thing that particular individual will be meeting up is the karma, the final karma. Let's say someone is going to die, the final karma might be something which reflects or which consists of the habitual karmas, or garuka karmas, Vaiti karmas, habitual karmas, karmas that you did, but it was not in your mind, but it suddenly popped up in your mind. So that's something, that karma might come up in your mind. Maybe something that could randomly come up in your mind, with your mind. Unfortunately, what's happening in our culture is, whenever a mother is going to die, whenever a father is going to die, the kids of those parents, it's not a bad thing, but they're going to be surrounded by that person, going to be around the bed, right? And then they keep crying over the death that would befall in a few moments, or in an hour, or in a few days. So what's happening in the mindset of that mother or father, or whoever the person is, that these people are going to be so much worried, so I am going to separate from them. So then, whenever someone is coming up with sorrow, any lamentation, any bad feeling about detachment, so they worry about mother's death or father's death simply because they will not be associating keeping up with their parents in the long run, but they might not know. But those people who are going to die, they may come up with a lot of thoughts about separation. And to Buddhism, if you come up with worriness or any feelings of separation just before you're gonna die, you will be heading off for a unsafe heaven. So it's not a good idea. So then you need to stay happy with something that you've done, because you can't any longer associate your sons, daughters, or because Buddha says that we have been like relatives in the long run over the existence, right? A cat is not going to be cat in the long run. A cat can become a human. Human can become a cat. Not because they are cat, but the humans, but because the final thought, the final karma that they come up with. Cat can become a human, not because what cat might have done in that existence, may a different karma from a different life may have helped or can help those animals to get out of those existences, those lives. So these karmas can affect you in different levels. These karmas couldn't be sometimes the karmas you've done in this existence, in this life. This could be come from different life. We know that how do the karmas prioritize in our lives, right? There are 3 types of karmas according to the results. How they are going to result you, how they are going to affect you. Buddha says there is a particular karma called Ditta Dhamma Vedani, which means there are some karmas when you do them, those karmas will immediately affect you. Right? You may immediately see the benefits. Could that be a good thing or a bad thing? There could be karmas that could affect you in the next existence, but not in this existence. I'm sorry, the best word is a life. The existence is like samsara. So the next life. There could be some karmas that could affect after the second life. So then cat can become a human. There's no any doubt. A dog can become a human. Animals can become human. So could be little more than humans. Deities, non-humans. Yeah. So Buddha says the first thing everyone who's going to die is the final karma that could come up in the mind of that particular person. And then karma nimitta. You may know the nimitta, right? A symbol of the above karma. Let's say that your mother, your father, or you may have done a very massive karma. Then you may come up with something symbolic with that karma. Let's say in Sri Lanka, there are people who keep saying, I should offer 100 Atapirikara before I'm going to die. I know that while I was in Sri Lanka, people tend to say that. I mean, that's how people look at Dharma in certain extents. Different than other people. So, to be honest in that concept, I would say offering of Atapirikara, that particular action, and then Atapirikara. That's a symbol. For those who done a bad thing, let's say someone who has backbited over something, over a good association, relationship, any achievement, so they come up with backbiting, slandering. Then they know that they backbited, and the symbolic thing of that backbiting could be the way that how they backbite, how they made that separation between the two people. Right? So symbolic something could come up as the second step for that person. And the third one is gati nimitta, which means a kind of a certain idea about the next destination. The Buddhism is the only philosophy or whatever something which speaks of this theory, which means everyone who is going to die, unless they're going to be dead randomly, they know that they're going to die, Buddha says they can know where they're heading off. One of the stories proves this theory. How many of you know about the story of the Dhammika Upasaka? Have you ever heard about the story of the Dhammika Upasaka? There was a very stalwart, staunch Upasaka at the Buddha's time called Dhammika. And he was seen by his sons and daughters that he's gonna die in few days. So then, sons and daughters, they invited monks over to their home, and then at the same time they invited monks to recite Satipatthana Sutra. Right? Satipatthana is such a long sutra that you might not, be able to finish reciting. In few hours. It could take you for few hours to done the sutra. Anyway, so the monks started reciting, chanting this sutra. Halfway of the chanting, what happened was the Dhammika Upasaka, he went onto a different world in his mind, and he said, stop the chanting. Sorry, stop. He just used the verb called stop. The monks, the worldling monks, those who haven't enlightened, they felt like the Upasaka, the Dhammika Upasaka was kind of super tired. They tired with the things that happened in the last few hours, last few days, and they decided to stop chanting, and they went back to temple. Sons and daughters, they came up with a different thought. Our father, he was a very staunch Buddhist, according to their wishes. He was very, he really liked the company of the monks. But, just before he was going to die, he came up with a very different idea. He even did not like listening to the chanting. Right? And then they cried. They kept crying over this incident. And then he came up from that something, and then he asked the question from the sons and daughters, so where are the monks, the Buddhist monks? And they said that they went back to temple because you told them to stop chanting. No, I didn't tell them to stop chanting. I came up with a different something. Something came up in my mind, popped up in my mind. There were different deities who came up with different garlands to invite me to their different worlds, heavens. So they asked me to come to this one and that one. I said, do not disturb me. I need to collect more good karmas so that I can decide the best place. So I told them to stop and not to the monks. And they even highly worried about that too. Sons and daughters, they didn't even know anything of them. They were kind of super busy guys, so then they didn't know about this. And in a short while, he passed away. So then he knew. He came up with a certain knowledge of the next place, right? I don't know like how many of us can know, because the thing is like we will be super big by that time to let someone know that I could see something like this, right? Anyway, the Buddha says that. So karma nimitta and gata nimitta are the three things that everyone will be meeting up before we're gonna die. So Elsa Sujata Pereira, the beloved mother of these sons and daughters, may have met up with these three. And what's going to happen after that? And I think all of you know the Chuti Chitta and the Patisandhi Chitta, right? The death proximate thought and the rebirth linking consciousness, right? So these two are inseparable, right? So neither one is like separate, right? So they are put together at all times. It's like mind and the Chitta and Chaitasika, right? It says the thoughts and the mental concomitants arise together, stay together, perish together. They take the same object. It's like that. So when someone is going to die with these three things, they be having all these three things under the Chuti Chitta. Why do many people they get scared at this Chuti Chitta? Because Chuti Chitta can change your everything, right? There is a sutra called Mahakamma Vibhanga in the Majjhima Nikaya. What's the sutra called? Mahakamma Vibhanga Sutra. There are two sutras, Chula Kamma Vibhanga and Mahakamma Vibhanga. And Buddha says there are four categories of different karmas, right? And he brought up the discussion in this way. The first category is those people who have done good things head off for a bad place. You might never have heard this one. Buddha says, those who have involved in the Dasakusala 10 good things or whatever the good things, but for some reasons they head off for a bad place. I mean, I don't think that you are so concerned about your next life, but just to say that there is a teaching like that. And the next category is those who have done bad things head for a safe heaven. And the third category we know, of course, good people, and those who have done good things head off for a good place. The fourth category is those who have done bad things head off for the bad place. So, what is strange in the four category is the first two things. Why does someone who has done good things head off for a bad place? It's because of the Chuti Chitta. But let's say someone has been involved in a lot of bad things, but then come up with a good thought way before he's going to die, and then he's reborn in a good place, but not for a longer time. Habitual karmas, they affect that person, and take back to a bad place. Those who born in the mom's womb but die in the mom's womb. Those who born in different like good levels but they pass away due to an accident, due to a cancer. I'm not saying the cancer is a problem, but at a very young age. Because we are compensating our own karmas, not our mom's karma, not our dad's karma. We are separate individuals. Though we claim to say, I have my family, I have my parents, right? But we are compensating daily for our own karmas. That's why even you could see a lot of differences among the siblings in a family. When the siblings get to a restaurant, and you could see not everyone order the same thing. They come up with a lot of different things. And the mom claims that all they born in my womb, but they have different ideas. And in terms of their expectations, ambitions, quite different. Right? So It's because of the karma, right? So the first category is the person who has done bad things heads for a good place, means that particular phenomenon. So because of the Jyotichiritra. And those who have done good things can head off for a bad place too. How many of you know the story of Kosala Mallika? Right? I think you may have known Kosala Mallika because she was very famous, the queen of King Kosala, right? And then she passed away. She was the only one who could do the Asadrusha Mahadana, unparalleled the dana, right? It could be done by only one person in one Buddhist sasana, right? She could do it, but for some reasons she came up with that, some of the random bad thought, and then she thought it for a while, and then she passed away. At the same time, and she was born in a bad place. And what did Buddha do with that story is that whenever King Kosala determined to ask the question after she passed away, because he was like constantly visiting the Buddhist temple, but Buddha consciously used his power to forget the question, and he couldn't ask the question for 7 days, because he knew that after 7 days Kosala Mallika will be able to be born in a good place. So then we have to touch upon the reason whether Buddha is fair enough to do that or not. Anyway, so Buddha did that because Buddha didn't want people to come up with misconstrued ideas, right? For those who devout and then very devoted people to come up with bad things for a very trifling, right? For a very trivial things. So that's the second category. And then you know the third category and the fourth category. So this is what's going to happen after the death. Well, now I'm going to talk about the 5 laws, right? Through Buddha's teachings, everything doesn't happen as a consequence of karma, right? Buddha says there are 5 laws. So karma is 1/5 of that particular process, and he first brings up the first law as the physical inorganic order, right? Things happen with the climates, let's say tornadoes, tsunamis, earthquakes. These things happen not because of a karma, right? To Buddha. But we don't know, like, those who could get, who could be the victims of these disasters. Can meet up with their death because of those, karma concept. But Buddha says these, natural disasters, they happen as a consequence of utuniyama, right? Seasonal effects. And number 2, bijaniyama, the physical organic order, which means what's happening with the process of trees, right? You get to see flowers, fruits at a later time. It's not because of the Buddha's power, not because of the Deva's power or something else, but because of that organic process. Number 3 is Dhammaniyama. I think I told you Dhammaniyama means the law of norm. What is happening with all of us, the birth, decay, right? And the growth and the death, all these are happening not because of the Buddhism, right? No any other person, but because they are under the norms. They are under the law of the norms. And then Kammaniyama is what we've been talking about. And the Dhammaniyama, Chittaniyama is the law of the consciousness. I think I should talk about this for a while. You may have known that Buddha has said to us, mind, thoughts, consciousness, they are different. And these 3 categories are entirely different. Right? What is mind? How many sense faculties do we own? Right? How many sense faculties do we own? 6 sense faculties. Right? So piece of eyes. Right? Have you ever thought convinced you that you have 2 eyes? So piece of eyes, piece of ears, and then nose, tongue, body, and mind. So mind is there. So mind is something that you own in a particular life. So minds are different. So you get a mind in this life, you get a mind in the next life, being a different person, right? Then what is the consciousness? We know how does consciousness arise. Let's take up the first sense faculty, piece of ice. What's happening with the piece of ice? When the piece of ice get in touch with objects, forms of the rupa, and then they create I consciousness, which means consciousness is a heightened version, elevated version of the sense faculties and the objects, right? That's a different thing. So then I told you about the mind and the consciousness. What are the thoughts? Thoughts are under the objects of the mind, right? In the Yogacara philosophy, if you want to know Buddhism in the most rational forms, then study about the Mahayana philosophy. Study about the Yogacara and Madhyamika philosophies. These are the philosophical aspects of Buddhism. To Yogacara philosophy, they say we have 8 consciousnesses. The first 5 are the usual consciousness that we know, according to, with related to the sense faculties. And then there's a consciousness called inference consciousness. How we infer the things, how we guess about the things, how we conjecture about things is done by a consciousness, right? I think you have a lot of experiences to guess something, right? Those who have a lot of experiences can foresee things happening in the future or in few months or in an hour. And the last consciousness is very important to know. It's called the store consciousness or the base consciousness. What is the store consciousness? In Sanskrit it's called Alaya Vinyana. What does Alaya mean in Sanskrit? Now you know in Sinhala language we have certain names in Sri Lanka. Vidyalaya. What does Vidyalaya mean? The place where the studies are done. Alaya means the place, abode. So store consciousness or Alaya Vinyana or the base consciousness means the Bhavanga Vinyana. It says all the other consciousnesses, they arise and they transform into different forms within the store consciousness. Okay? So they are secondary at that point. All our other consciousnesses, they arise, they transform into different, they transform, right? Nothing is permanent, right? Everything is transient. So your I consciousness is impermanent, right? So they are moving into different directions within the store consciousness. Okay, now I would move on to a very nice conversation, nice topic. Buddha says, in Abhidharma it says, how can you take a thought? Now we always come up with thoughts at a split second. I don't think we can count the time, right? Buddha says, Upamapina Sukara. I can't give you a simile, metaphor about the mind. Mind is such very subtle, incomparable. Yeah. So Buddhist, in the Abhidharma, according, a lot of Sinhala people say Abhidharma is such profound to read. No. Abhidharma is the matrix or the theory of the Buddhist teachings. Sutras are the examples of the matrix. How come you start from the examples to learn Dharma? You never understand Dharma. See, when you're going to study something with examples from the beginning, how come you then going to know the matrix? You never know. That's why people have a lot of problems, right? And some people say, Swaminatha, we learned Dharma from that monk and this monk from that book. We are thoroughly confused what to pick and where to go. That's the problem. The problem is not that you're going to pick Dharma from one monk. Go and learn Dharma from different monks, different temples, and improve your Dharma knowledge. But don't stick to one person. Don't stick to one book. Stick to one monastery. Right? Because you should keep your perspectives widely open. Right? Because we have to be critical on it. Right? So Buddha says, Abhidharma, Buddha never used the Abhidharma in the way that it's been used at this point. Abhidharma to me, I've been studying, it's a matrix theory. Sutras and Vinaya is completely historical. The incidents happen with the monks and those laypersons. So sutras are the example. If you know Abhidharma, Abhidharma is very easy to learn. If you learn them from the beginning, Chitta, Chaitanya, Rupa, Nibbana, and then you will better understand sutra more than us at some point. Because there were some ladies, upasikas at that time, who were highly proficient in Abhidharma, more than the monks. But they never came up in the congregation and said monks to monks, I know Dharma better than the monks. That's one of the ditthi. Those who know Dharma never proclaim that I know better than you. That's a ditthi. If you know Dharma, then go ahead with your own practice. Right? Because Dharma, for Dharma there is no teacher. Dharma cannot be transmitted. Rather you trying to practice by your own self. Okay? Start from yourself. So the point is, in Abhidharma it says, to take a thought, you have to pass 17 moments. In Sinhala we call them as Chitta Viti. Chittakshana Dahata. You need to pass 17 Chittakshana. The very important thing is, let's say, okay, now let's take an example. I mean, in a class, a teacher is to give a topic for students to write an essay. Let's assume the topic of the essay would be, disruptive students should be taught together, agree or disagree. So I think, I know, like in a more comprehensive essay you have to agree and disagree and make your own points. But as soon as they're done writing the essay, whenever the teacher is going to mark the essays, teacher feels that everyone has done justice, the fuller justice to the topic of the essay, they get the equal marks. But as an observer, if you're going to take a look at the different essays that they've written, you may see they have touched upon the basic points from different perspectives. They are not as same as others did toward the essay, which means thinking is very different. The reason is, whenever you want to take a thought, it has to be gone through the Alaya Vijnana. Let's say I'm going to talk to you, so I'm going to come up with my own ideas. Those ideas come through to past consciousness, right? And in the Abhidharma it says Atita Bhavanga, Atita Chalana, Atita Upachcheda, and then you get up to the thoughts in this life, Panchattvara Vajjana and so forth. And ultimately after 17 moments, then there is a thought getting registered. See how fast are your thoughts getting registered, right? Anyway, so that happens in the pre-birth linking consciousness. Right, so this is how things happen with the death and the after death. Now I would like to talk about the realms, different realms. In the Buddhist practice, we know there are humans, and then there are deities. Are they below us or above us? I know when I was in a conference back in Sri Lanka, there was a scholastic monk who presented a paper, and then he was like thoroughly touching upon the heavens and the hells according to the scriptures, and finally surprisingly an Indian scholar who came up and then asked a question, okay, we appreciate your presentation, but can you locate these places? And the monks got very irritated because he did not expect that. That was not wrong. I mean, he came up with that bad understanding. Because I mean, whenever someone should talk about these supernatural things or like things that are beyond your practice, we need to some extent, I mean, kind of like get ready for answers that could be asked by people, because people don't know. People don't want to be more like historical about, hey, there's a hell somewhere. There's a hell, like there are people being like tortured and sabotaged, right? Something like that. Anyway, So anyway, I mean, let's leave about the place, whether it is below or above. And Buddha says, there are humans and there are deities and then there are Brahmas. Right? There are Brahma worlds, right? And then there are hells. Okay? So there are, let's start off from the good versions. Let's go into the Brahmas. So Rupavachara and Arupavachara Brahmas. There are two forms of the Brahmas. Brahmas are, the Brahma means people who are better than the deities. Those who have never thought that the deities, who have thought that deities would be the ultimatum, now it's a point that you can think there are better people more than the deities. They are called the Brahmas. So there are 16 Rupavachara worlds. Rupavachara means the Brahma worlds where the Brahmas have a bit of form, but then there are 4 Arupavachara immaterial worlds where the Brahmas don't have a form. But I don't believe it, because to survive you need to have at least a subtle form of your body, right? It could be a subtle form, but it couldn't be like as big as how we think about a person. So there are Brahmas and there are humans. And then there are hells. How many hells are there into the Buddhism? The Chinese, I'm sorry. 120. 128. Yes, there are. I mean, I think there could be more hells according to like people's different ideas and how people think. To Chinese Buddhists, they know, they have a practice. They have a time they open the door of the hell. I mean, if you are a person who constantly go to Chinese temples, and they have a bank in the hell, right? I don't think this bank is not yet founded by these upbeat nations. So there's a bank. And the people, the followers of the Chinese, some like denomination, they have a belief that they can transfer the good karmas by burning the paper coins. You have to burn the paper coins, right? So how much you, I mean how many papers and with the worth of the paper coins you burn, you can earn a lot of merits, good karmas, and you can pass down to them. That is how they believe in that particular understanding. Anyway, so to Buddha's teachings, there are 4 kinds of people in the hell. I would say Narakaya, Tirisan, Preta, Asura. So Narakaya means there are 8 kinds of hot Narakas. The hot hells, they are really hot. I think they are hotter than the Middle East. Right? And there are another 8 cold hells. I think they could be colder than the countries in the northern pole in the world. Right? Unbearable coldness or kind of like warmth in those places. Sanjeeva Kalasutra Sanghata Raura Maharaurava Tapa Pratapa Avici. Our people know only the hot hells because we come from a hot country. We never touch upon the cold hells. You better take a look at the whole cold hells too. I will mention that. Right? They are really mentioned in some of the Mahayana books. Right? Anyway, so Narakaya includes 16 hells. 8 kinds of cold hells and 8 kinds of hot hells. And then Tirisan. To the Buddha's teachings, he identifies all the animals, starting from ants or like the bacteria or amphibians, and up until the big animals. They are in a kind of a hell. They're not like badly treated, but they suffer a lot. They suffer a lot. And then the third kind of people in the hell, they call as the pretas. Who are the pretas? There are 4 kinds of pretas too. Preta doesn't mean the person who wanders and then eats bad things, but it could be one of the pretas. There are 4 kinds of pretas. The first kind of the preta means those who departed from this place. They call the pretas. Our people have a lot of fears about the intermediate state. There is no intermediate state in Buddhism. I think people believe in an antara bhava or an immediate state simply because the person is born in a bad place. That itself says they're born, right? They're not in a transit, right? So the first kind of pretas are called as the Nijjama Tanhika, those who've been suffering in a particular preta world. They could be seen only with some of the forms of visualization. And Kuppipasa category of the pretas, they've been recognized as the pretas who eat the bad things. And then Pansapisacha is also a subcategory of the first one, Nijjama Tanhika. And the last one is called the Paradattupajivi. How many of you know about the Paradattupajivi? Because monks do say, whenever someone passes away, on the 7-day dana or the bana, they bring up this preta birth. Why? The good karmas that those people do can only get taken by the particular person who passed away, as long as that person is born in the Paradattupajivi. As long as the particular person is not born in that place, they cannot, or that person cannot get the merits at that point. Right? So it looks to me, Paradattupajivi means a transit, but the individual is born, but in a transit, waiting for others' good karmas, because, when someone's mom, dad, siblings pass away, they cannot disturb the neighborhood. They can only disturb the home that they spend time. They request, they plead good karmas from their past relatives. Right? So this is how we get to see the realms of individuals, all of us, when we pass away. So this is how our future life will be dependent, right? So anyway, this way Buddha says, so karma is a very bigger concept. So it affects all your last moments and your next life. So I would like to wrap up this talk by talking about whether there is a possibility to bypass the karmas. Right? It's a good thing. It's not an encouragement to do some bad thing and then to take a look and I can get over that. Buddha says, unless you have done the 5 heinous karmas. What are the 5 heinous karmas? Panchanantari Papa karma. What are the 5 heinous karmas?
Murdering father and mother.
Yeah, matricide, killing your mom, killing your dad, wounding the Buddha, making conflicts between monks, among monks, so and then killing the enlightened people. I think this is not comprehensive. Where is the place that you could see the murders of the siblings, the murders of the other people? It's not comprehensive. I think this is one of the perspectives about the serious killing, according to one aspect. What about making schism, making problems between two people, right? And it can take the two parties into a serious problem too, right? Not even the monks. So these were brought up according to the time, according to the situations at that time, right? Anyway, so Buddha says there are 4 ways that you could think about bypassing karmas unless you haven't done those 5 heinous karmas. What are they? Kala, Upadi, Payoga, and I miss one. Kala, Upadi, Payoga, and there is one more. If you born in a good time, then you may bypass some of the karmas that you will be supposed to experience. Okay? That's a good thing. And if you can try your best to a certain extent, you can bypass some of the karmas too. And if you can be born with a full-fledged body and full-fledged, environment or perspective of your life, then you may be able to bypass your own karmas. And Buddha gives an example in the Mahanama Sutra. He says, when someone is to put a small amount of salt into a glass of water, what happens right after that? The glass of water gets salty or saltish in a moment, because the amount of salt is higher than the amount of the water, the volume of the water. What if someone is to put the same amount of or volume of amount of salt into a large river or lake or somewhere like which has more water, and that place doesn't get saltish or salty in the same way, because the volume of the water is higher than the volume of the amount of salt. So those people who have done small amount of good karmas, they're getting affected by even a minor offense, minor problem, right? Those who have a bad record of good karmas, right? You need to clear those bad karmas. So they even stumble at a very small bad thing. Those who have done way more good things, comparing with the other side, and then they don't get stumbled at smaller things. I did not say this to encourage you to do bad things and to think about it, but all of us, we are worldlings. We may not have enlightenment at this point. So if you have done something wrong in your life, don't worry about it. Go ahead, because worriness can take you to even worse place. A lot of people ask the questions with the results. In Sri Lanka, even back here, we know that, okay, what can I do when I get to see a spider? I don't like spiders, right? Spiders can bite you. I don't know what they're going to do. What can I do when I get to see there is a mosquito is going to bite me, right? That's the question. So the Buddha's answer solution to this problem is, go back to the cause, not to the result. How come the mosquitoes came into your home? How come the spiders came into your home? Because you haven't cleaned up your place. You haven't prevented the cause from the cause. Then these guys came in, right? Rather you looking at the result and then to solve the problem, you look at the cause. I think in this world, in most of the disagreements, in most of the disputes, in most of the problems, in most of the criticisms, if people can go back to the cause, then they can really solve the problem. This is given with the Paticca Samuppada, the dependent arising. Buddha always says, go back to the cause. Go back to the cause. Every effect has a cause, right? That's how Buddha told us to solve the problems. Do not count on just the result, but result can learn you something, can teach you something, but learn from the cause. So with that teaching, I would like to wrap up this Dhamma talk, because it's like 9:05. So at this point of time, let's share all the good karmas with the departed people and the deities. In special, let's share all the good karmas with the beloved mother of Lucky, Lal, and Shammi, and all the other relatives. Mrs. Elsie Sujata Pereira, who passed away just over 2 years ago. May she be happy and peaceful. And we know that you all took care of her to the best of you. Like, we all are away from our mother country, but that does not delimit the connections that we can do. We would always go by whatever we can do to our parents, siblings, or relatives. Though you are away from the places, we have the language of the heart. So let's share all these good karmas with your beloved mother, Mrs. Elsie Sujata Pereira. May she be happy and peaceful. And at the same time, may all the other relatives who passed away, in the name of all of you, be happy and peaceful. May Mrs. Elsie Sujata Pereira and all the other relatives who passed away attain the supreme enlightenment. Let's give a big sadhu to them and recite this stanza. Idang me ñāti nang hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Idang me ñāti nang hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Idang me ñāti nang hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Also, we should transfer all the good karmas with the deities. A lot of people don't know that when they recite Akasatta Bummata or Ittavata Chamhe Hihi, the usual two stanzas, they also share good karmas with the non-humans. Devas are non-humans. So deities, Nagas and all the other non-humans, those who have splendors, majesty. May all the good karmas be shared by all the deities, all the majestic non-humans and Nagas. May they be happy and peaceful. May they protect all the monks who stay here. And then all the family members, Lucky, Mr. Lucky and his wife and family members, sons and all family members, and Mr. Lal and wife and sons, daughters, and everyone in the family, and all the other friends, well-wishers, who've been with you at this point to share all these good karmas. So may all you be protected by all the deities and non-humans. May they be happy and peaceful. May they also attain the supreme enlightenment. Let's give a big sadhu to them and recite the stanza. Ittavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampradang sambe deva anumodantu samba sampatti sindhya. Ittavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampradang sambe bhuta anumodantu samba sampatti siddhya. Ittavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampradang sambe satta anumodantu samba sampatti siddhya. So finally, may all the good karmas that you've been collecting from the start of the Buddha Puja, from the start of observing 5 precepts, and then listening to Dhamma, and then contemplating the Dharma, and I am sure that you're going to make sure that your path is on the right way. So may all these good karmas help all of us to attain the supreme enlightenment as well. So give a big sadhu to, and I'm going to bless you. Abhivadana Sirissa Nichang Vaddha Pachayino Chattaru Dhamma Vaddanti Ayuvannu Sukhang Balang Ayurarogya Sampatti Sangha Sampatti Mevacha Ato Nibbana Sampatti Iminate Samicchatu. Hamadanatam Thiruvan Sarana. May you be well, happy, and be protected by the triple gem. Good night.